Hi, I am Lakshita Johari, a senior consultant with Life Science Dynamics. When we look at the rare disease space in general, I think, we are seeing that rare disease is often explored by smaller companies that, are working on maybe one or two assets in a very niche indication and are really focused on those assets that they are developing for kind of this large unmet need population. However, I think we have seen kind of recent changes in the past hinting that large big pharma is also, showing signs of interest with rare diseases. And yes, this might come through acquisitions of the smaller biotechs, but they're really looking for that kind of proof of concept and making sure that, in theory, the cell therapy, the gene therapy is really delivering on the promise that they're showing. So we are seeing a little bit of interest from big pharma in that space as well. We've seen kind of acquisitions from Novartis, we've seen acquisitions from BioMarin, from Eli Lilly. So we're really seeing the big players really enter the field. I think with all these regulatory changes as well, I think it's going to demystify and maybe de-risk the field a little bit as well, because very often you're developing this new gene therapy, you're probably the first company actually moving forward with the clinical development in gene therapy for a rare disease, and there are a lot of unknowns in that space, the way you design the trials, the way you're going to enroll the right patient population. So with these guardrails in place by the regulatory agencies, the hope is that it kind of makes it easier for sponsors to develop the clinical trials and really lower the barrier of entry. And I think when big pharma sees this as a field where they can expand, really grow their pipeline, and make sure that there aren't too many uncertainties or question marks around the way trials are going to be run or the way the regulators are going to perceive the trial design, the trial data, I think it's going to become a very interesting field for large pharma to enter. I think that also becomes particularly important because often the smaller biotechs are working with limited resources, both from a clinical and commercial, standpoint. And we often see, very limited cash runway. And when they have the backing of big pharma, it really allows them to experiment more, really make sure that they're putting the right resources in actually developing the assets and bringing it to fruition. So it would be really great to see, large pharma expand their network, leverage the boots on the ground already to make sure that the therapy is actually reaching the right patients, and the doctors are able to give it to the right patients as well.